This is the bonus section podcast, episode number 13, Understanding the Power of the Simplest Solution. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime, and that somewhere inside of you there's just this bigger version trying to break free, but in spite of all that self-development you're going through, you just can't seem to find the way up? Well then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the bonus section and the host of this podcast, and more importantly, a person just like you trying to live the most fulfilling life possible. Now, to help you take action to move in a better direction to do that, we take the notes from each of these episodes and we leave a couple of those notes up there for free so you can download them and work on them over at freethinkingtools.com. That's freethinkingtools.com. So we leave a couple weeks up there so you stay up with them, and then we move them over to what will be our membership site. So those of you that want to go deeper with us will be able to do it. But this is our best stuff given away for free. Just pay attention and snatch them up as they exist. Okay? freethinkingtools.com. Let me get after this one though. I'm excited about this one. This is one of my favorites. Understanding the power of the simplest solution, not the most complex solution, the simplest one. So let me start off with the first point. Something I learned long ago was this concept called Occam's razor. What is Occam's razor? Well, if you were to Google it, you'll find a Franciscan monk or friar, I believe he was, William of Occam, in England, was a friar who was trying to develop a problem-solving principle that stated that entities should not be multiplied without necessity. What the heck's he talking about? Well, he was trying to make a case for miracles. And so he was really trying to not make them more complex. He was trying to very logically explain how miracles would happen so that he could bring people to faith, is in essence the way that I understand it. I'm not going to go too far. But there are people over the history of time that really try to make things simple. I think if you look at a lot of the deep thinkers, you'll find that this is what they were after. But what I like about Occam are the three first words that you see there: problem-solving principle. And that's what this is about. Understand that I said simplest solution. What I'm trying to do here at the bonus section is provoke us to think. We get caught up in not thinking, right? It's easy to have everybody else do our thinking for us, force their opinions on us, and the next thing you know, we're behaving unconsciously. That's a better word, because at the subconscious, you can do your programming to overcome that. Stop acting unconsciously is something I challenge myself with all the time. Don't just go through the motions of life. But there's this strange phenomenon in life when that starts to happen and we see all these others as an authority of intelligence and we don't see our own intelligence. We begin to diminutize our self-esteem, our self-image. We shrink. We start to do a lot of shrinking here. And what happens is we see these other people that sound so smart to us, and we throw that label of genius on them. Now, there have been a lot of people in my life, near and dear to my heart, that always would talk about how great other people were. Well, let me tell you about other people. And I'm going to get into the heaviest one I can think of that you would all resonate with in a second. But they're just like you. You have to understand that. They're just like you. They just happen to have some sort of a passion. Don't get me wrong. I know we're not all exactly alike. I know that some people come out with some sort of out of the womb with some sort of an ability to hyper focus on things, or they have a very, very specific interest and they hyper focus on that. So perhaps to you, their understanding of that thing is amazing. Artists, we see it in a lot of artists, an amazing painter who had this great insight, a pianist, or whatever it might be, a writer, on and on we go with this unbelievable creative mind, we believe. But that was their focus. You see, that was their thing. So you might slap the label genius at that thing, but really it's just passion, interest, and then the subsequent time they put into it. Now, anybody who's really good at something tends to be able to understand it in a really simple way. They're not finding themselves perplexed every day after thousands of hours and many tipping points to understand it. So what you're not interested in and you don't clearly understand because you've never pursued it, don't overuse that term genius, that somehow, and the worst part is, oh, they were born with that genius. No, they weren't. Don't say that about people. They still had to do the work, even if they were born with a predilection to go in that direction, and that's what they really wanted to do. And then they spent the time doing it. And yes, do they have some proficiency at it at a very high level? Absolutely. And might we call it genius? Sure, why not? I'm more worried about how you use the word genius as a way to diminutize your own intelligence about anything that you might be interested in. Well, all those people were just born smarter than me. Come on now. That's the first sign of your own intellectual curiosity, laziness. I know that was a lot of words. Don't get lazy like that. You can learn anything. And the stuff that's the easiest to learn about is the stuff that you love. See, we're all programmed with that thing. But what you'll find is what Occam found, just like my next little guest here on the podcast, Einstein. That's the next point here. Let me go into this. Was Einstein really just a master of simple thinking? Was he? Well, I can make the case that might be right. See, a lot of people understand, the theory of relativity. I don't really know a lot about Einstein's scientific body of work. I've never really studied it. Why? It's not interesting to me. However, I am fully aware that simultaneously he was very aware of human behavior and thought. And that oftentimes his quips and his quotes are phenomenal insights into the way that anybody's mind could work. And so he's very well known for some of his quotes about simplicity. So think about that. We call Einstein a genius by default, not knowing very much about his interest level in the scientific pursuit. We don't know much about that. Now, if you go back, you'll find, like I just did prior to the podcast, to bone up a little bit on what I want to talk about, because there's an anecdote I'm going to give you. At a very young age, it's clear that he had this scientific curiosity, and he was interested in it, and he was pursuing it, and he was understanding it. That was his thing from a very young age. And flash forward to when he was an older man, after all the time he puts into this discovery and this curiosity intellectually. And what does he say? He says things like, genius is making complex ideas simple. See, we might see the theory of relativity as some complex idea, but do you know, and you can find this out for yourself to fact check me, do you know that at 16 years old or so, he was known for imagining himself a very simple complex, right? I mean, a very simple tool that you have, your imagination. We talked about it early in this podcast and often, from Napoleon Hill talking about it as a law of success to Maxwell Maltz really making it a tool to program, the subconscious by acting as if. That's all around the imagination. Well, here's Einstein. Now we bring in a really, really important example to validate it. This is a kid at 16 years old imagining himself chasing a beam of light, and then imagining himself coming alongside of it so that he could catch it and see it standing still. And this is very much part of the development of his theory of relativity. Imagine that. His own imagination just watching a beam of light stream along, and then imagining himself in the theater of his mind, thank you, Maxwell Maltz, chasing it, catching it, and being able to see it in static form, and being able to see these electromagnetic fields, I suppose. See, I'm out of tarmac. It's beyond me at that point in time what he's trying to figure out. But could I go and do more study on Einstein and be curious about that moment? What was he trying to see? What electromagnetic fields? And why was that important to him later on? See, all I have to do is just go study it. And I can come up with at least a simple understanding, a simple enough understanding to do this podcast with all authority to tell you that's where you should look. See, there are no barriers to stopping us from talking about these subjects because they're simple. They don't require some sophisticated degree that says it's okay for Danny Griffin to start a podcast on the bonus section and start talking about the head stuff. Why? Who says? Doesn't mean that formally educated people that go through working on psychological issues, etc., whatever, philosophical issues, it doesn't mean that people that don't dive in there don't have an even greater understanding. But you still have to be able to articulate it simply if you're trying to share it and benefit others. That's my endeavor. And I'm not trying to do more than that. I'm not trying to portray myself. And again, I'm not trying to defend myself here. I'm trying to provoke you to know it's okay to figure this stuff out and that it's actually quite simple, no matter what it is that seems complex to you. By the way, here's a really, really key point, right? Let me go to the next point here, is that let's presume now I'm giving you permission to say, okay, I get it. The thing that you want to do seems at this moment to be really, really complex. However, if you love it, diligent study, not being lazy, it's diligent study leads to the chunking up of the simple steps. I know that for sure. I have been around small business long enough, and in particular real estate. I have 5 kids. I've raised them to the point I have today. I know that by diligently studying those two processes, I know that there are simple steps to help raise a child who's at least well-adjusted enough to survive on their own in the world. I know how simple the steps are to create not just a real estate small business, but many now. Many. Because it turns out that as you diligently study something you're interested in, you begin to say, I don't need to make this so complex. I'm so emotional about this, when the truth is if I would just execute this, it leads to this simple result. See, there's a strange thing in our heads that we want to make everything more complex, and I will call it out as intellectual insecurity. And a lot of you that haven't gone further than elementary school, high school, college, you pick it. Whatever it is that makes you feel intellectually insecure, who said it was over, folks? Diligent study into an area that you're interested in, nobody stops you. You don't have to go to school for that. In fact, what a wonderful world we live in right now in the digital age. I know more people that become expert at something by absolutely obsessively reading blogs, listening to vlogs all the time. Going to YouTube, I learn more from Wikipedia and YouTube than I can even, Wikipedia when I'm trying to get in tight on a person's history. A lot of you, by the way, that are looking for an example of somebody who's done something, my daughter, the actress, together we look at Wikipedia all the time just to simply see the early life of the actress. Where'd they live? What plays were they in? What did it look like? Same thing with Einstein. Go learn about his early childhood. Figure out the things that he did. I mean, whatever it is that you're trying to model after, or at least move in the direction and become the next genius or master of the obvious simple stuff, go study them and just start moving in that direction. But that's curiosity that leads to your diligent study. And studies, for some of you, it's a heavy word. It's an ugly word. Oh, I'm not a good student and I can't sit still. I have ADD. Whatever. If you're interested, that's what you'll go down the rabbit hole on. Now, all of the distractions of the day now, where you want to dumb yourself down and do things that don't lead to your understanding of the thing that you want, there's the problem. So if you're trying to get better at something that seems complex, you don't even get to do, let me go back to this Einstein quote. Genius, your own genius, is making a complex idea, something that seems complex to you today, making it simple. Well, how do you do that? Well, you diligently study that thing, you keep your notes, and you keep chunking up and bubbling up the simple steps that lead to it. Now you can say, okay, I know my gap. My gap is I have to get there. So what do I do? What do I study now for this micro piece of it? I can't just jump 5 rungs on the ladder and have mastered this thing. So now I enjoy the journey. Awesome. Now I'm clear. See, clarity is powerful. Certainty is powerful, but it starts with this general idea of what does the entire process look like, and you do that by looking at somebody that's already done it, break it down, and you begin to chunk it up for yourself. No barriers to entry, folks. Nothing. Nobody can stop you from doing that. Nobody except you. So now, the last piece of the kind of how-to here is capturing and memorializing these simple steps. If you can get them and you can capture them on a piece of paper. I have a pad of paper right next to me and 2 pens so that if an idea comes, I capture it, or digitally, I put it into the notes on my iPhone and it's captured so that I can remember to bring it to you and expound upon it here, right? So you want to capture and then memorialize them. Capture them in your head. There it is. I'm studying. Write it down. Now it's memorialized. Digitize it at the same time. Now you have it memorialized in 2 places, digitally and in a written form, and protect it like the Holy Grail, right? So now you've got these things locked in, and you can begin to organize them to form the best formulaic solution for success in any interest. You know I'm big on trying to crack codes and find formulas that are simple. So this is really that moment where as you're studying your thing, you're saying sort of like the A to Z. Can you imagine this is as simple as an A through Z how to do it list that you're discovering? Isn't that fun? I mean, if it's your passion, it's fun. You know my theme here. If this isn't something you love to do, then you're going to not continue that childlike curiosity. You won't continue to study for fun, read books for fun, obsess for fun. See, you'll know when it's the thing because you stayed up too late watching the videos about it, taking your notes, and you're a little bit groggy the next day. That's when you're in love, right? That's when you're in love with the pursuit of this thing that you really want to master over your lifetime. See, that's the process of self-fulfillment. The study, the becoming, the discovering. Because once I get the chills just saying it, like for you, not for myself, but just I know what this can do for you. You will go through this study of something you love and you'll figure something out and you can almost feel the brain waves. There's a wiring. And things begin to wire, and you begin to awaken parts of your brain and your mind that you never knew worked together. You never knew they were so powerful, but you'll feel it when you start to go through this process. But you have to start to crack your own code. Get these ideas down, organize them in an A through Z way, and then you can figure out what parts of it you need to work on. Okay? So let me go back and talk about this here. The idea is you have to begin to understand the power of the simplest solution. There's power in this, right? You're after it. Learn on your own by going and studying a little bit about William of Ockham and Occam's razor. He's one of those people that's memorialized in time and credited with this approach to problem-solving principles that really stated that entities should not be multiplied, okay, without necessity, meaning I don't need to make things more complex if there's no need for it. And then you have our pal Einstein. Wasn't it really his simplistic use of imagination that began to teach him at a very young age, teenager, on how to solve complex scientific philosophies and theories that he was interested in? Study that. But the idea of this diligent study in an area, okay, I want you to study them to understand why simple solution approach matters, but then go diligently study something you're interested in so that you can chunk up the steps that somebody took to become a master, aka a genius in that spot, because it's waiting for you. And lastly, it's the act of capturing along the way, memorializing these things into a notebook, and then trying to beat them into a simple formula, not complex. If it doesn't require, 27 steps, and it only requires 6, eliminate until you've gone down. Einstein has another great quote that I'll leave you with. Make everything as simple as it can be, but not simpler. Something like that. I think I'm paraphrasing him. That I love. Because it's like, look, if you see a process here and it's too simple, you'll kind of know there's like a gap getting from B to C. You'll know. So don't make it too simple, but you have to try to chunk it up. That's my key phrase here all the time, right? Let me say it this way. While there are many sayings about the simplest solution is the best, there is also a process by which you can discover the simple solution for your personal interest and goals and lock in a repeatable formula that stands ready for you at your disposal and your use. All right, enough of me. Remember, you can get passionate about this stuff. I love it for you. Come on, you got to go implement this stuff. Remember, you can take immediate action to get moving in a better direction in your life, moving towards these goals, because we take all the notes for you. I memorialize things, but I'm not going to leave a whole list because you'll get paralyzed. So I'm going to leave 2 at a time. You're going to go be able to download them for free. Take this, and I don't care when you start listening to the podcast. There'll be other levels. You want to go deeper with me? We're going to set up a membership site. It'll be innocuously inexpensive. Okay. And we will keep seeing where you want to go with us. But for right now, I am right here, and I will always be right here as long as the bonus section exists, talking to you, trying to teach you to provoke your own thought. But you can get the freebies over at freethinkingtools.com. I'm also going to ask you to remember, I want you to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify so you stay in a rhythm. You can download a whole bunch of episodes at once and rattle them off, sort of like a Netflix binge. You can binge listen to the Realty I'll be okay. That's my other podcast, to the bonus section. All right. And also, we're going to post all this stuff all over social, so we're not going to be hard to find. We're going to hide in plain sight. But I would say, if I were you, I would subscribe to the iTunes channel. I mean, I'll be okay. I got so passionate about the simplest solution. I'm babbling here. Go to YouTube. You'll find me over there, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Facebook page. We're separating this whole bonus section out in my world. We're going to keep improving the website. There's a lot of work to be done there, but for right now, I couldn't wait to get you these messages, okay? But I'd also appreciate it if you would share this content with other people. So we want people to get the help. If nothing else comes from this, please help other people with this information. Just knowing that might be happening excites me and keeps me passionate about this, okay? Remember, nobody is coming for you, okay? Nobody's coming for you. There's not a magic white horse with a bucket of gold they're going to sprinkle on you, okay? So go get to work on yourself, and the rest will follow. And I'll see you in the next episode.